Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here recording episode 29, Roles of a Language Teacher. We have our second teacher edition episode out for all of you, either up-and-coming teachers, current teachers, or veteran teachers, to hopefully give you a better insight into language teaching. And obviously today we will be focusing on the different roles of a language teacher. As most of you know, I'm a language teacher, and my amazing co-host Jared is quite the language learner, both on our way to polyglot heaven, I guess. I don't really know the right term for that, but yeah, so Jared, what's going on, buddy?
We've made it. Guten Tag. Bonjour.
Ahoy.
Rule number one for a role of a teacher, tell your students when you lost your virginity. Refer back to our one of our previous episodes here about Chad's Reddit AMA that went so well. Please, everyone, if you could hear a clip of that AMA on our Instagram and Twitter at Instagram is Untranslatable Podcast. Twitter is Untranslatable1, the number 1. You can email us at the untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Tell us your travel stories. Tell us about your favorite language teacher, why they were your favorite language teacher. Tell us about your least favorite language teacher, why they were your least favorite. I remember Frau Wirtz. She wasn't my least favorite language teacher for any other reason than I just don't think her and I got along, but she was a good teacher.
That's fair. Can I interject real quick?
Please.
I taught a class today, a bunch of new students, and I was instructed by my colleagues to do another introduction class. So of course I did the Reddit AMA again today, and didn't get any bad questions. But every class asks me about Donald Trump,
okay, that makes sense.
And about Czech women.
Okay, that's an interesting one, Lord. If you think they're hot or something.
I mean, they always say, "What do you think about Czech girls?"
And what do you tell them?
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I tell them I don't really know that many Czech girls, but like the ones I've met have been nice. And I mean, obviously, you know, Czech women are very pretty. So, I mean, I tell them like it is, you know.
It doesn't seem like you've had enough interactions with Czech women to be able to make some sort of actual opinion on it, other than most of them tend to be pretty.
Right. And I mean, obviously what you see on any videos or websites, or like I was looking at trying to find Czech movies so I could maybe watch them with English subtitles and try to pick up more Czech. And of course, all those actresses are gorgeous, just like Hollywood actresses are from, you know, the States or Great Britain or wherever. But I just find it funny. And then I always love to ask my students when they ask me this, what do you think about American women or American girls? And I always get some pretty interesting answers. Let me just leave it at that.
This is a different class than you had the previous Reddit
Correct.
AMA with. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So did you get a similar response on the Donald Trump thing too? A lot of people seem to think he was a cool dude.
A lot of these students, well, as I said, like one of my other classes, a student called him a clown. Again, and a lot of the students,
student.
right. A lot of the students in this class, although they were in the Czech Republic, we call it first grade, even though they're like, I guess in the American system, they'd be considered like in 9th grade. They all seem to have a pretty good head on their shoulders, and also seemed fairly well versed in like global issues and politics, which was nice, you know, because politics aren't an easy thing to discuss, especially with students in a foreign language. But we definitely had an interesting discussion. They asked me a little bit about the whole kneeling situation, because they first asked me about if I watch football, or as they say here in the Czech Republic, American football, which like they mean tackle football, right? And
Real
so,
football? No, I'm kidding.
Right. Oh man, those are fighting words, Jared.
I actually tend to call soccer football and more than soccer these days. So,
but I also had a student ask me. He was like, "Why do you guys call it football? Like it's shaped like an egg." And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
I mean, that's a question that's been asked for ages, and I don't think there's ever going to be an answer for that.
Well, you want to know what my answer was?
Yes.
Well, I was going to tell you what. I was going
Yes,
to
I
tell you
do.
one way or
Did I?
another. I told him that we call it football because it starts with a kickoff.
Is that why they call it football? Is that
Probably not,
Oh,
but it seemed like a good answer at the time. I don't know.
true? They're
Makes
like,
sense to me, I
okay.
guess.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it football either, but whatever. Guess what? In a mere couple of hours, I will be boarding a flight to go on a hiking / camping / backpacking trip through the Smoky Mountain National Park in Asheville, North Carolina.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, apparently it's going to be. So, I believe it's supposed to be around like 30 miles of a hike round trip. I think one way is about. We're going to go to a couple different places. One of them is 11 plus miles, but I think that's one direction. Then you have to go back. I guess obviously you have to go back. We're walking, so that'll be about 20 something, and then we're doing a couple other small ones in the area. And see, terrified's not the right word.
Okay.
But I feel very unprepared, and I almost feel like I'm forgetting something, and it's like this is when I'm gonna strand myself in the woods, and I'm a little nervous about that part of it. Like, if you would have seen my preparation, you'd be like, you should not be going on 30-mile hiking trips.
What are you bringing? I'm curious.
I got my hiking boots on Sunday.
Have you broken them in yet?
I've been. Yes, I have.
Good.
Kind of. When I'm not at work, I'm not wearing them right now. But the past couple episodes we've recorded, I've been wearing them.
Yes, that's awesome.
Whenever I go walk to the grocery store, whenever I walk anywhere that's not work, obviously I'm not wearing them to work. I'm wearing them.
Dude,
so
you gotta bust those out at work. Wear them with pride.
And then I got my tent on Saturday. I got my rain jacket. Well, I had a rain jacket, but some fuck stole it the other day. Refer back to last episode.
Oh, from
about
your
that.
car, right? Yeah.
So I got my rain jacket today. I leave today.
Oh, wow. Cutting a little close today, buddy.
I have a headlamp. Well, Brad, I'm going with Brad, the one that can't leave me alone when we record podcasts. He listens, by the way, so he's going to hear me say that.
Nice.
Hey,
Brad.
He was mentioning. I was asking him the other day. I was like, "Is there anything I need to make sure I have before I get there?" He's like, "No, you're good." He's like, "I have my headlamp and my blah blah." I was like, "Oh, I don't have a headlamp." So I went on Amazon that day and bought a headlamp, and it should be coming in before I have to get on my plane today, but I do not have that yet.
Uh-oh.
And
You also have some warm clothing, right?
yes, the coldest it's supposed to be, from what I've seen, is the mid to high 50s is the absolute coldest it would get, I think.
At night?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's solid.
So
All
and
right.
during the day it should be 70s, mid 70s, but it's supposed to rain a little bit. So that's why I need to make sure I had that rain jacket.
Right, I gotcha.
But yeah, it's like I'm super excited, but I'm also pretty nervous. I'm like, there's a slight chance that I could get stranded in the woods. I was also doing some prep with Brad the other day, and he was mentioning stuff that he had and that he needed. And he mentioned to me like 3 or 4 times that he had bear spray. And I'm like, bro, I get it. Why do you keep mentioning this bear spray?
Maybe he needs
Like,
to
I know-
remind it for himself so he doesn't forget.
I know we need it, but the fact that you brought it up so many times is making me a little nervous.
Right.
But I don't know. Other than that, like, I'm super pumped, and I'm more than anything, I'm pumped. One, for great untranslatable Instagram content.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which
I'm excited.
you listeners have probably already seen at this point. And like, this is the kind of vacation I think I want. Where, you know, I went to New Orleans a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't call that a vacation because I was running around a lot, drank a lot. I came back even more tired than when I left. This is going to be a complete isolation for about 2 days, because it's going to be Thursday and Friday. We're going to be going early. We're going to leave early Thursday and be done probably afternoon, evening Friday.
Nice.
And so it'll be 2 full days of isolation where I'll only be taking out my phone to take pictures, hopefully. That's the plan. Or
That's
call
awesome.
911 and give them my longitude and latitude. Those are the only
Right.
2 things I'll use my phone for.
There you go. Do either of you have any type of pocket knife?
He does, yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
do too, but I don't. I'm not bringing it because I don't want to check my luggage.
Right, I gotcha.
But he does.
That's very important, I think, on any nature hike. Have some type of pocket knife on you. You never know when you're going to need a knife.
Yep, and I made sure. Another thing I thought to bring was I bought a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, which I'll use for trash and stuff. And then in there, before there's any trash in there, what I did was I unrolled like 20, 30 sheets of paper towel, folded them up, and put them into that bag.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
if I have to, shit in the woods or
I'm not going to go rustic and
anything
use
like
any leaves, huh?
if I can avoid it, I'll try to avoid it.
I don't blame
Brad
you.
also bought a water purifier, which you can stick directly into any body
In the
of
river,
water.
yeah, those are sweet. I've seen
And you
those.
could technically just drink from it like it's a straw, but you can also use it to fill up water bottles and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, I'll be gone
That'd be
for
a good trip, man.
for a couple days, but you podcast listeners won't even know the difference.
That's true. I'm gonna miss you though.
Yeah, Chad will know the difference.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm pumped. I'm pumped, and so I'll be leaving a little later today.
That'll be sweet, man. I'm excited for you. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll definitely have a recap on that when I get back. So that'll be episode 30 probably.
Nice. Solid. I also have some news.
What's that? You're pregnant.
Yes. I am pregnant with Jared's untranslatable baby. No, dude. I finally got my acoustic guitar.
Oh, nice. Do you have you played a little bit of it?
Oh, yeah. I
You
played
can't
it for
give-
about
you-
2 hours yesterday.
I thought you were gonna give us a little bit of a. I didn't know you. You could give us, if you had it next to you, you could give us a little bit of a quick.
Yeah, I don't
demo.
have a guitar stand here with me, so I got to keep it in the case, keep it safe.
Okay.
But who knows? Maybe our listeners out there could enjoy some new music with an acoustic guitar sometime soon on the pod.
That would be cool. Put it on the
'Cause it's
Instagram or
acoustic
something.
electric, so
Yeah, you could
What?
plug that straight in. I said put it on the Instagram or something. Some cool
Right.
new
oh yeah.
Czech songs you've learned.
Actually, I have been learning some Czech folk songs in my choir,
Okay.
so maybe I could learn some of those and figure out the chords and play them on guitar. It'd be pretty cool.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Don't tease me, Chad. That sounds amazing.
Right? Wouldn't that be sweet? It's crazy though. So we've been like, I had my choir rehearsal last night actually, and the crazy thing is, there's a song called, and it means rain, or rain. It's like it's raining. It's called Prší Prší.
Okay.
PRSI.
A little close to an American word that
Right.
means something very different.
Yeah, no kidding. But that song, dude, there's a part in it where it's really, really fast. I literally can't even sing it. Like it's just like it's just too fast. I can't.
That
do
sounded like the intro to "Where the Party At." Where the party at? You know that song? Go and get the Bacardi with something at. No, I can't forget about. So what do you just do? Do you just like
I
stop
just let him
singing
sing
or
it and listen. Yeah.
okay? Because
I
you could
follow
also
the
just
sheet
like.
music.
Could you not like hum or like at least make the noises along with it, even though you don't know what the hell they're saying?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the hell they're saying like 90% of the
you
time.
can't even.
But usually, like my mentor is in the choir with me, and usually she will try to give me like the rough translation. But obviously, you can't translate every line within 20 seconds in between like the songs we rehearse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's cool though. I've picked up a lot more Czech than I've been realizing. Like they were all talking, and I would get bits and pieces of it, which was pretty cool.
That's exciting. Like, can you think like what is it? Just words that you'll pick out?
Words, numbers, a lot of times colors. There's a concert coming up soon, and they all had to wear black, and the word for black in Czech is černý.
Okay.
So heard that a lot, and then also the word ale, ale, it means but. Like I did that, but then I blah blah blah. Right.
Wow, this is a Czech word of the pod extra credit right here.
That's right.
So, are you gonna be at this concert?
So, and that actually was a great segue because that leads me to my next point I wanted to share with you. This weekend, I have Friday off from school, so my buddy, shout out to my boy David, is coming to visit, and we're gonna go to a hockey game. I got the tickets today.
Who's David?
And a fellow English teacher, a friend of mine.
Oh,
He's
was that
actually
the dude
from
that?
Missouri?
Is that the dude that speaks Russian?
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
from Missouri? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But he studied at Wake Forest. Really cool dude. Like him a lot. And so Friday we have the hockey game here in Chomutov. And then Saturday we're going to go to Karlovy Vary, which is like a really famous spa town in the Czech Republic. And we're going to check that out.
Get some
because
his and
it's
her
only about an
massages?
hour away. Actually, no, we didn't look into that. But that is an option, I guess.
Have you ever gotten a massage before?
Actually, I haven't.
Me neither.
I feel like it'd be a little weird.
I don't. Really? How so?
I don't know. I would.
You don't like people touching you like that?
I mean, to me, it just seems like it would be. I don't know. What if it tickles? Like, I don't know. To me, like, I don't know. I feel like massages could be a little weird. What if you have to fart really bad?
I think they don't welcome it. I don't think they hope for it, but I think that's okay. I think that's part of it. Is we're trying to get you as relaxed as possible,
What
and
you
if
get
that
a little
means you have no
excited?
control over your bowels, then so be it. Same thing. We're trying to get you as relaxed as possible, and part of that could be, a little tumescence.
Okay, fair enough.
So, that's cool. So you're gonna explore a little bit more of the. We need to get this David guy onto the pod sometime.
Oh, we will. This will not be the last time I'll be chilling with David. So we'll definitely get him on here as a guest. He would be a great guest because let me tell you, man, he has got some really good stories from when he studied in Russia.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I want to know about what it's like to learn Russian, but even more than that, what it's like to study abroad in Russia.
Right.
I don't know if I mentioned this. My mom used to go to Russia for work every year, and she, not that she didn't like it, but she was always a little nervous to go. Like she, and she always like had security with her and stuff, and she would never really explore the city by herself. And like when she was in the hotel and had free time, and but some of the pictures she sent were gorgeous, like especially of those Russian mosques. Those things are awesome.
Oh yeah, those are gorgeous. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And they drink a lot of vodka, apparently, according to her.
Right, that's the word on the street. That's what my buddy David also said. But yeah, so it'll be cool to check out Karlovy Vary because I've obviously never been there. It's a very historic town. There's also a type of. Oh, I will. Don't you worry. There's also a type of liquor that apparently only 2 people in the world know the recipe for. And it is located in Karlovy Vary. And they have like a little museum. So you best believe when I get there, he and I are definitely going to find some of that. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the name of it here. It's
Yeah, I was about to say, I love it.
it's like Bezru something. Let's see here. Becherovka.
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 What kind of booze is it?
It's an herbal liquor, often drunk as a digestive aid that is produced in Karlovy Vary. And it was originally made by a guy named Jan Bechar. And
Is he still alive?
Becherovka, no.
Oh, okay. I don't know if he was one of the 2 people.
Well, I don't know. Hold up. Let me look. I don't want to give our amazing listeners the wrong info. Nope. No, he died in 1840.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, but he was actually, I believe, like like either a pharmacist or like a apothecary, worked in an apothecary, and so it's, but yeah, apparently the word on the street is there's only 2 people in the world that know the ingredients, like all the herbs and everything else in it. So yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let me know how it goes.
I will if we remember.
Yeah. See how good this stuff is.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a fun weekend. We both got fun weekends
Yeah, we're
coming
gonna
up.
have a good time this weekend. Just please don't get eaten by any bears.
Okay. Well, hopefully Brad doesn't forget that bear spray he's mentioned
Right.
3 or 4 times.
No kidding. I wonder how effective that stuff is.
I don't know. Especially if a bear is already in attack mode and adrenaline pumping.
Right.
I feel like it would do more harm to the people spraying it than to the bear.
Right.
Because it's kind of like pepper spray. Like it affects everyone in the area of it, not just the person you're shooting it at.
Exactly.
Even probably the person that shot it is
Right.
getting affected
Are
by it.
there really that many bears though in Asheville?
I don't know the Smoky Mountain National Park bears. I probably should have Googled this a while ago. Great Smoky Mountain National Park is one of the largest protected areas in the eastern United States where black bears can live in the wild. Natural surrounding bears inhabit all elevations of the park through populations. Though populations are variable, biologists estimate that roughly 1,500 bears, 1,500 bears live in the park.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that means yes.
You do know though that I'm sure you or Brad know this, but you shouldn't keep your food in your tent. You know that, right?
Yes, and we're not bringing anything perishable because we would if we were going to do more of a glamping trip where we're going to be at like a campsite. But since we're going to be, going along a trail and then stopping somewhere, we're not going to bring like anything perishable with us. So that should help. But
so what are you going to be bringing?
I don't know. That's kind of because I have to fly there, so I'm not bringing the food with me. But I did request trail mix with raisins and at least an almonds or something. But I don't know. But, it was so funny because when Brad and I first started talking about this, he's like, do you want to go glamping or do you want to, like, hike and backpack? And I was like, I kind of want to do both. Like, I want to be able to hike this. I don't want to just go to a campsite and chill out there for the night. But I also want to enjoy myself. And I was like, you know what? F it. Let's just go hiking, backpacking like men. We'll go backpacking. I'll bring some cigars. So when we get to our campsite, we'll smoke a cigar. Nice. We'll go camping all day. In my backpack, I'll have a steak. We'll cook those steaks on the open fire like men, and we'll eat them. And he's like, yeah, bro, we can't bring steak. And I was like, huh? And I was like, oh, so even like the most strenuous form of this trip in my mind was still glamping. He's like, yeah.
Nice.
So I'm not really sure how the food's going to work. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of jerky. Jerky's a great...
You gotta go jerky.
A great protein source for the road. Although I wish it was some of your dad's jerky. Like going back to like Jack Link's feels like I'm eating a tire.
Right? Yeah, my dad knows how to make some good jerk. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. But as I said before, I should have more information on this. I'm aware.
You'll be all right. Just use your survival instincts. Yeah, just go with your survival instincts, and I'm sure you'll be all right. Plus, at least you're hiking with a good friend of yours. I'm sure both of you, the two of you combined, will be prepared. It'll be a good weekend, man. I'm excited to hear about it for our next pod.
And it's not his first rodeo. It's just my first rodeo. So I stumbled upon something the other day, and it got me thinking. It just got me thinking. So. Singapore Air has come out with a let me start over. The longest flight that you can take right now is with Qantas, and it's from London. With Qantas's flight to London taking 17 hours in 20 minutes, and Qatar's flight from Auckland taking 17 hours and 40 minutes. Those are the two longest flights happening right now. Singapore says that's it. They're starting a service from Singapore's Changi Airport to Newark Airport in New Jersey, which is going to be 18 plus hours, damn near 19 hours. Ooh. And that'll be the longest commercial flight ever. And it's not like one-time thing. It's going to be a new route that they're doing.
That's crazy.
And it's going to be 19 hours. And I was thinking about 19 hours, and I thought, that's long as fuck. The longest flight I've been on has been 12 hours, a little over 12 hours. And it was from Philadelphia to Doha, Qatar, or Qatar. I don't know how you say it. And it was interesting because after 12 hours didn't feel much different than when I fly to Europe, which is usually anywhere from 6 to 9 hours, depending on where you're going. And, once you get to a certain point, it all kind of feels the same to me. It's just, and so I wonder if that would be the same. I guess 12 hours is a long time. Think about another European flight added on top of that, like another 7 hours on top of that.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. I can't even imagine.
That just blew my mind that there's now going to be a 19-hour flight. And I what do you do on that plane? I mean,
You listen to the Untranslatable podcast.
just on repeat. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
listen to. We have more than 19 hours of podcast. That's a good point. You know what? I fully support this. I'm gonna hit up Singapore Air, see if I can get our pod on their little in-flight entertainment.
There you go.
That would be awesome, by the way.
That'd be sweet.
That's just like
sure.
a good place to have our podcast because, especially on international flights, people are going internationally. They want to know about cultures. They want to know about language, getting
Absolutely.
associated. All right, I'm going to hit up Singapore Air. And
Can we
Qantas
can we
and see what's
backtrack
up.
for a minute? When did you go to Qatar?
I went to Tanzania.
So you had to go to Qatar and then Tanzania.
Yes.
Okay.
It was Philadelphia to Doha, Qatar, and then that was 12 hours. And then Doha to, what was the name of the city? Something, I can't think of what it was. Oh, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania was
yep,
the city.
okay.
And that was about 6+ hours. So
Wow.
in total, it was about 19.
So your whole
But-
trip there would be one flight.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah. And the tank has 24,000 liters of fuel.
That is a lot.
And there are, oh jeez, at some like I wonder if there is something you have to figure out between, yes, we can do this versus, is this like just because we can do it does it mean we should? Because they also have to take into account, can we trust, hundreds of people for 19 hours in an
Right.
enclosed space?
That's a great question.
Because that would be where I'm more nervous than the actual airplane making it. The airplane is more tested than anything that I've ever is more tested than anything. It's the people that aren't,
Oh, for sure.
and that's where I'd be like, ugh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
always a risky variable. Us humans,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Without a doubt.
Can we go 19 hours without two people getting into a fight on this plane?
Right. Just have Samuel L. Jackson on the plane, and I'm sure he'll break it all up. Sick of all these flights on this mother plane. But
Oh my
Jared, that
gosh.
was kind of inadvertently a shout out, I think, to Singapore Air in a way. Don't you think?
I thought about making it a shout out. That's why I wanted to put it at the end of our top of the show
good
talk
call.
because,
Okay.
I mean, they're not. Singapore didn't do anything. They just bought an airplane from Airbus.
Right.
But and also, I'm not sure if this is a good thing yet. I still haven't
maybe not.
decided because I'm not convinced that having 19 or hundreds of people trapped on a plane for 19 hours is a great idea.
Well, we'll have to find out. Maybe we'll have to interview some passengers on some of those planes and see what they thought. That'd be pretty wild. Well, Jared, as I mentioned, maybe that's not quite a shout out, but I'd like to give a couple shout outs this episode. So the first shout out I'd like to give is to actually, believe it or not, a school janitor named Carolyn Collins, who, and she's in Georgia, or Georgia High School, I guess, has a closet called the Giving Closet, which she actually opened up about 4 years ago. Basically, it seems like this closet provides students with all sorts of stuff. So toiletries, food, socks, underwear, school supplies. And
So she's just kind of like, if someone's like, oh God, I pooped my pants, and they're like, come to my closet, I got you.
right. Or if you're from a lower income family and maybe you didn't get breakfast, or even dinner the night before and you're starving, I feel like there's a lot of people make assumptions about children in school, and they don't realize they only see the surface. They only see what they see in class. They don't know what the children have to deal with at home. Are they getting enough food? Are they getting enough sleep? Are they getting enough attention from their parents? The list goes on and on. And I have to really give a big shout out to Carolyn Collins for offering this for her students. I think if more schools did this, we might even see a slight positive return on their participation, engagement, and overall performance in class.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be on someone like Carolyn Collins. She's, as you said, the janitor, custodian, whatever. It's not her job to be doing that stuff.
I agree.
And obviously she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart because she's a good person. But
Right.
I assume her income's not that great. So like she is still sacrificing a lot on her own for, just because she likes to help people, but like that's not how the system should work. Just like how like I have friends that have been teachers, and I've seen them buy stuff for the classroom, buy stuff for their kids, and
Of course.
I'm like, this is coming out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah. It's like, I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, this is, it's unfortunate, but that also shows you that these teachers are doing this, and I guess same with Carolyn Collins, are doing this because they love the kids and what they do, and not because they're trying to, they want to make a living too, but like, it's clearly not about the money, because you would never find anyone at my company putting in their own money for something like that, or like say there was some sort of like I work for a car company. Say there was some sort of cool car show I wanted to go to, and they didn't approve it in the budget to give me a plane ticket to go there. I wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm so committed to this company and making these products great that I'm going to go on my own dime. I'm like, all right, well, F you guys. I'm not like, it's just a different mentality, and I appreciate it. Shout out to Karen Collins.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my last shout out for this episode, I know you're not a huge dog person, Jared, but I love my dogs out there.
Where my dog's at.
Right. And there's a video of this volunteer named Ryan Nichols. So shout out to Ryan Nichols. Apparently he's actually a volunteer all the way from Longview, Texas. And he is wading through knee-deep water to rescue these dogs that were stuck in a cage as floodwaters in North Carolina were coming up. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So it's a really uplifting video.
I'm not a huge dog person, but I also don't want to see a lot of dogs just drown.
Well, sure, of course. I mean, shit, man. If
not a monster,
right? Well, yeah, of course. But it's
yes.
crazy. Just the amount of pets that people don't realize are either left behind during natural disasters or stuck in cages or chained up. And so shout out to Ryan Nichols for,
And you can't, it's tough too, because you can't even really fully blame the people or families that are doing this. Because like most of these people that do this, it's like, yeah, I don't want my dog to die. I love my dog, but my main concern is my kids or whatever, or my husband or wife. It's like, I can't we have one car that we have to take with us, and it's filled to the brim with our stuff. I can't bring the dog, unfortunately. And it's sad, but that's why we need, cool that someone's out there trying to do some help. And now the unfortunate part is that they're all going to end up in shelters. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say they're all going to be killed, but, living in a shelter is not an easy life either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy if you look at pictures of dogs who get adopted and just their body language and everything when they're at a shelter versus once they're like acclimated at home with like an owner.
I've seen a lot of that too with just like the visual health. Like you see like their coats growing thicker when they're living in a home, and they're obviously they're more active because they can be, but like it is you do see sometimes those I'm gonna make you cry videos on Facebook where some dog that was like beaten by some piece of shit,
right?
And then some lovely family takes it in, and now it has a full beautiful coat and it's running in a large backyard.
Right. Oh, for sure. The worst when I was growing up were all the videos with like Sarah McLaughlin, like in the arms of the yeah. Oh my God! Talk about like pulling on your heartstrings and
the dog just has that like pouty look on its face and is looking up at the camera.
Right.
You just gonna leave me here?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, they really know how to advertise to your emotions. That's for sure.
Do you remember those ones? Dane Cook had a joke about it, but the ones where it was that dude with the all khakis that would ask for like, oh, for only $1 a day, we can feed an entire village of kids. And it was a similar thing where it was like those kids just sitting there in the dirt, just looking up at the camera.
And they're all sad.
Like, oh, God. And it's like, I would love to give money, but I have a great feeling that this money is not going anywhere close to those kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sadly.
Especially with these TV commercials. How much do those commercials cost on TV, bro?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, those are our shout-outs, and I think you know what time it is, Jared.
Oh, look at that. Our clock just struck untranslatable o'clock.
That's right. Untranslatable o'clock it is. And I want to give you a good Czech one for you, Jared. So this is ruku na to, and that means to offer your hand.
So it's not to give assistance, I'm going to guess.
No.
To show, offer your hand. When I hear offer your hand, it almost seems like to show your cards.
Okay.
Like to reveal.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Because offer your hand to us as Americans would be to help someone. Would be almost a direct translation.
Right.
But that's not what it is.
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
think about it more visually. If you offer your hand to someone, I'm not talking about marriage. This isn't like to offer a hand in marriage. But
Not to help someone.
and not to help someone, which also does make sense. But I mean, what do you do with your hands?
Oh, to shake someone's hand? To
You're getting closer, getting warmer.
high five? Hug?
You were closer with the shaking.
Oh, shake?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Is it the Czech word for dap? Dap someone?
Well, not quite. It basically means to offer your hand in a pledge of something, for instance, to seal a business deal.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like when you see on like
shake on
TV
it.
when two different like national leaders are shaking their hands for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, just like strike a business deal, something like that. Uh-huh.
So it's like if someone were to go back on it, I'd be like, "What are you doing? I offered you my hand last week, and now you're telling me you don't want to do this deal anymore?
Right.
You're a shady man." My first one is Swedish, and it's blogbaving. And blog is exactly what you might think it would be.
Like a blog? Mm-hmm. Really? Can you say it again?
And blogbaving.
And what's the second word mean?
And baving is quake. Blog quake.
Is that like when something goes viral?
Yes, it is.
A blog quake.
Yes. I mean, it's a little antiquated now. Blogs aren't that big of a deal anymore. But I think it's awesome. It's like, oh man, this really caused a blog quake on Twitter.
That's awesome.
We could even go like with like a Twitter quake, update a little bit,
right? Or an Insta quake.
Yeah, I think that's a great word. And
That's
the idea
awesome.
of a quake, of it causing like a quake.
That's so
like that one.
awesome.
Yeah,
I hope the Untranslatable podcast will be doing some blog quaking in the near future.
yeah. We're I need to hit up Wendy's.
Right. All right, Jared, I got another one for you. This one is Czech, and it is na kolenje. And that
Na
means,
kolenje.
sorry, that means on one's knee. And it does, also, this one is not a marriage one.
Is it to beg?
That's a good guess, but not quite. Not quite.
Give up?
No, not really.
Okay, give it to me.
This is na kolenje is means like in primitive conditions without appropriate tools. So I guess like
So that doesn't. So that doesn't really. I mean, that doesn't. So the actual literal translation doesn't really offer much, as far as what it actually means. Then I would say.
Not really. I mean, I guess if you think about like, if you needed to go somewhere and you're on one knee, you don't have the appropriate tools to really walk very far. Maybe.
Right, you're kind of helpless at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. I actually have an English one.
Oh. Okay.
England as in Britain.
Right.
And I just happened to stumble upon it, and I was like, what the hell does this mean?
Cheers.
So this one is Kurt and Twitcher. And said as an American, it would be Kurt and Twitcher.
A cut and twitcher. Oh God! I mean, I know what those two words mean separately, but if you're a curtain, is that like you're like an eavesdropper?
Yes, it does.
Oh, all right.
Chad's on fuego today. A nosy neighbor, often caught peering out of their street on their street activities
Okay.
from a curtained window. So it's currently, constantly twitching
Right.
your
Yeah,
curtains,
looking
looking
out.
through them.
Yeah. That's a good one in terms of imagery.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Don't be such a cut and twitcher. That's great. All right, Jared, I actually have one more in Czech for you.
Okay.
So it is ma obě ruce leve, which means he has two left hands.
Clumsy.
Yeah. Hit that ham horn, my man. I mean, we basically say he has two left feet. It means like
Yep.
either clumsy or you're not like very good at something.
Yeah. Okay. I'd say maybe if it was hands, maybe I probably should have said like Butterfingers. That would have been my first thought, but I guess
Right.
that would have been wrong. It's more clumsy than just a Butterfinger. I have one more as well.
Nice.
And this one is Mandarin, and it's Mama Hoo Hoo. Mama Hoo Hoo. I wish people could see my like expressions when I do that.
Did you make sure that's the right tones?
No.
Because who knows? You could be saying something that means completely different. Something
I could put it.
completely
I could put it in if you want me to see what the.
I'm curious to see what the actual.
I wonder if I could put in the actual characters because I have them.
I would put in the actual characters. Because what I can tell you about the minimal knowledge I know about Mandarin is based on the tones, it can change the meaning of a word.
I think actually now it looks like it's mama, hoo, 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 hoo. All right, there's going to be a slight crackling when I plug in my mixer to my...
Interesting. All right, let's hear this.
Here we go. I got to turn my computer. Shoot. There you go.
Mama hoo hoo.
I was right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was
and
right.
What do those two words mean?
Horse, tiger, tiger.
Horse, mama, hoo.
So I guess mama is horse and who is tiger or something. I don't know.
Is this like apples to oranges?
No.
Oh,
no. I chose this one
hoping to go
because
3 for 3.
The story of it is hilarious to me.
Okay.
So in English, it means, for us, it would mean so-so, or as the French would say, comme ci, comme ça.
Okay.
And the story goes that there was once a lazy artist who only painted horses for some reason. I don't know how that's a job. But was commissioned to paint a tiger, trying to stick to what he knew. He illustrated a half horse, half tiger monstrosity.
Yes.
Since the painting was neither of a horse nor tiger, it didn't sell.
Oh my God, are you serious? That's hilarious. I'm Googling this to see if I can find the painting.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. How did that not even cross my mind when I was reading that? Because I did find it hilarious.
You should look up the characters and see if you can find it.
I did. It's not coming up. Nothing's coming up. I mean, nothing that relates to it.
Interesting. That's hilarious. That is a great story. Oh my gosh.
What kind of job does that guy have, and how lazy can someone be?
I'm just going to paint horses for the rest of my life.
You'll get it. Oh, wait. I did find it.
Yes.
I'm definitely saving this picture.
Please do.
And we're definitely going to tweet and Instagram this picture out.
Oh, hell yes.
It is hilarious.
Hell yes, please do. Send that to me as well because I want to see this. That is so funny. That is awesome. Well, Jared, I think that draws a close to our untranslatable section for this episode. So let's move on and start discussing the roles of a language teacher.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, you being the language teacher, let's just start by you telling me, what do you think your role is as a language teacher?
Well, let me answer that question by asking you a question. Which types of language classes am I teaching? Are they speaking and listening classes? Are they language-based content classes? Are they...
Well, for the sake of me and the listeners, let's start with your current classes that you're teaching, because that we're most familiar with.
Speaking and listening. Very good. So speaking and listening, I would view myself in a lot of ways as a facilitator, as a motivator. I don't view myself when I'm teaching a speaking and listening class as the sole speaker or like knowledge giver. I think if you look at traditional lectures, like kind of like the Socratic method, like Socrates, teachers and professors are viewed as like the pure like knowledge givers, right? Whereas I think in a speaking or listening class, it's very important for you to give the students input and language that they can use and understand, but also to give them the freedom to speak with each other, also with the teacher, and try to really build a good environment where students feel comfortable speaking.
Do you think you do that? Are you good at that? Or do you think? Let me clarify.
I mean, I try. I don't know. I mean, I usually am able to get students to talk Sometimes, some days it's easier than others, like any profession. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with being a language teacher is you have to be aware that your roles will consistently be changing depending on your students, their proficiency level, the content you're discussing, everything like that.
Do you give yourself like a mission statement at the beginning of a semester, or when you started teaching certain different styles, you're like, if I'm going to be doing this, then I better make sure that I at least cover. I mean, you name those things that you like to hit, but like, is there some sort of inner focus that you have, where it's like, I'm not. This is not how I should be doing it. Like, I'm going off a little bit.
Right. That's a great question. I wouldn't say that maybe a mission statement per se. I do have a teaching philosophy, that I wrote out, that kind of
For a class or just personally?
Personally.
Okay.
I have it on my website, actually.
You have a website?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Got a website with a teaching portfolio and everything, man.
Are you gonna plug it?
I mean, I can. I definitely can.
That means no.
I mean, I don't really want to plug it just because I like to keep the pod
No,
a
I'm
little
with
bit
you.
separate
I'm with you.
from my actual like personal teaching career. But I mean,
But you'll tell kids when you lost your virginity. That's fine.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, here's the thing, Jared. I think it's important to be upfront, honest, and sometimes not be afraid to be personal with your students. Because
I'm with you on
when
that.
you do share personal information, I think students are much more likely to also share personal information with you, right? If I'm really reserved and closed off to the class, why are they going to feel free and open to discuss their personal lives with me? And as language teachers, we're going to be talking about things that are personal. That's just a part of the job.
That's a fair point. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna stop making fun of you for that. It's so funny to me.
I mean, it is funny. Don't get me wrong. And I kind of didn't believe it when it came out the student's mouth. But I thought, you know what? I had to make a split second decision. Either I'm gonna not tell them, or I'll just tell them. In hindsight, I wish I would have joked about it and like made some reference, like actually, like, haha, I'm still a virgin or something. You know what I mean? Like, but I wasn't quick enough on.
What's so funny about that?
If you've ever seen the 40-Year-Old Virgin, Jared, I think you would understand. But yeah. So I don't know. I think the roles of a language teacher though change a lot depending on the classes you teach, the students you have. I think for some students, especially lower level students, a lot of times you do have to be that knowledge
giver of knowledge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're at that point, they don't know anything, so you have to give them some sort of basis,
right? Exactly.
To start working with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like that's harder though. That style of teaching,
being the knowledge giver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would agree with you. I would most definitely agree.
Does your idea of the role of teachers differ from? Obviously, it differs from other teachers. Mm-hmm. From other colleagues that you respect, or other teachers that you've teachers that you've watched that you try to emulate. Do you still see something about their roles that you're like, I don't like that, or like I'm gonna take this and leave that?
Oh yeah.
Can you give us an example? I don't want to I don't know if I'm putting too much on you.
No, you're good. These are great questions. I would say also to kind of highlight what you said. I think it's very crucial if you want to improve as a teacher in any field, languages or otherwise, to observe a lot of other teachers and try to learn from them. And like you said, some things you might take from their teaching, other things you might not. I've had teachers in the past that I've observed that did a lot of choral work. And what choral work basically means is if there's a difficult word, like a lot of Czechs have difficulty saying the word particular. I don't know if it's the word stress or what it is. But then what a lot of teachers will do, they'll do a lot of choral work where they'll say, okay, class, everyone say particular, 1, 2, 3, and then everyone says particular, right? I try to use that very sparingly. I know some teachers who overuse this method. I think it's useful with beginners. And really it's useful for a lot of different levels of learners. But the issue is if I'm teaching a speaking and listening class, it's not very communicative, right? What I mean by that is you're not really attaching any meaning to it. In theory, I could be sitting in front of the class or standing in front of the class and saying something, and the students would have no idea what it actually means, right? Unless you explain that to them beforehand or afterwards. But, it's kind of pointless to just repeat words if there's no context, there's no meaning, things like that.
Right. The thing I don't like about that too is, I mean, it seems like there are going to be some people in the class that can say particular with no problem, and there's going to be some people in the class that are struggling extra hard with particular.
Sure.
And if you're just doing the choral work, how do you point out who's struggling and who's not? Do you have to look for their mouths and look at their faces for confusion, or?
I mean, well, I do have to say you mentioned a good point. Another role of any teacher in general is be a good face reader, because there are a lot of times where students, you'll say something and you'll say, are there any questions? Is everything clear? And you'll see two students that are just perplexed, and you can tell on their face. But I would say with choral work, the reason why I think it should occasionally be used and used sparingly is because it takes pressure off of students to worry about their own pronunciation being analyzed under a microscope, right? So if you were my language student and I gave you a difficult word, and then I force you to say that word in front of the entire class, it's pretty stressful. I mean, learning a foreign language is stressful enough as it is. I think it's important to build an environment in which your students feel comfortable to speak. And if I put you on the spot and make you speak and make you pronounce words that you have a lot of difficulty pronouncing, nobody wins in that situation. So what you do is you do the choral work. Then you can break it up into smaller groups and have them say the word together. I would rather do that with a list of words that might be related to the vocabulary or the topic I'm covering instead of just one word.
Do you have them make sentences out of those words? I feel like just saying a word over and over again is going to
absolutely.
Get
old. You can. There's a lot of things you can do. You can make them say sentences. You can give them write a sentence up on the board that's not in the correct order and have them kind of unscramble it. You could also write a few and you could write a few short sentences with the word and have them try to figure out which sentence goes first, second, and third, and read the sentences aloud. There's a lot you can do with it. But anyways, choral work would be one thing that I think can be overused in language teaching occasionally. I've definitely had teachers in the past who did that. Another thing I've observed also that I really don't like is I think a lot of teachers don't give students enough time to really process the language. So they'll be teaching something. I observed a class one time with this teacher where she would just put students right on the spot. And I always try to give my students some time to think because, one, they need to process the language in their brains of what I was telling them or asking them. And then they have to formulate an answer in their head. And by you just putting them on the spot, once again, I think it adds a lot of stress. And there's a lot of research out in second language acquisition, which is the field of how we learn languages, that show that an anxious learner or a stressed learner will not do nearly as well as a learner who is calm or not under stress, which makes sense.
When I during piano, when it's when I'm playing some sort of new song, my piano teacher will ask me. She'll be like, "What's the key signature of the song?" Quick, and she wants me to do it quick so I can figure out quickly what to what to look for to figure out what key it's in, because there's certain things you can look for and it's obvious. But whenever she does that, when she says quick, I just start panicking in my head.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, shit. What am I looking for?
Right. Gotta look at those sharps and flats, my man.
Yeah. But, and so I understand why she does it, and it makes sense. But I totally understand what you're saying, because as soon as she says quick, I'm like, oh God, right. I don't know. And I was like, yeah, you do know. It's just as soon as she says quick, you start you realize or feel like you're going slow or something. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. And one thing I've observed from some teachers that I really admire, as not only as teachers but as people as well, is they are quick on their feet when they're teaching, and they're not afraid to go off their lesson plan if the lesson itself takes a different twist or turn. If if they want to cover certain things in the conversation or the discussion and then realize it's not going there, instead of stopping the discussion and trying to steer it in that direction, they organically let it take its own direction and have the students, talk about whatever they thought or whatever they think or whatever they're feeling. I think a lot of teachers out there, they spend a lot of time writing their lesson plans and preparing, which is great. But, teaching is not a lesson plan. Obviously you can use that to help guide you. But I think some of the best teachers I have seen have been willing to stray a little bit away from their lesson plan as long as they're still meeting their goals or objectives.
Right. But but have a little more faith in yourself.
Right. And your students.
Yes.
I think if you have to spoon feed your students everything, you're not doing a good enough job preparing them for whatever you want them to do.
How's your bullshit meter?
It's gotten a lot better over these last 4 years. I can say that.
I feel like you're not. Because I asked that because I thought it wouldn't be good because you're so nice, and you always seem like you want to hope for the best out of people,
right?
Which is not good. I feel like that's not. I mean, that's kind of not a useful technique for a teacher because kids are dubious little people.
They definitely can be, but I think what's important is building a good relationship with your students. And I think if your students respect you, you don't have to deal with as much bullshit.
That's fair. I've definitely, that's 100% fair. When I was in high school, the teachers that I did not like definitely dealt with more sarcasm from me and smartassness than the ones that I liked who I was on my best behavior.
Yep, exactly. And so you try to build a relationship with your students where, one, they can talk to you and come to you if they need things or something's unclear, but also that there is that respect there. But I think a lot of times it has to be mutual. If you're just kind of this totalitarian authority figure in your classroom, and your students are afraid of you or they're intimidated by you, especially as a language teacher, that's not really ideal in my opinion.
Do you think there is a class that's not language teaching but another subject that would lend itself more to that? Maybe math or something? Fear is not really necessary for math, but totalitarianism might be where you're just like, this is it.
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I mean, when I think back when I was a student, I would say no in every subject. Because if I'm intimidated by you, I'm the type of person where if I'm intimidated by you and afraid of you and I don't like you,
shut down.
I'm going to either shut down or I'm just, I'm going to only care when you're looking over my shoulder.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Pretend that you're participating.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been there before. Yeah. But I've also been there before where I don't want to give off the impression that I don't know what the heck's going on. So I'm involved. I'm looking like I'm doing it, and I was like, as I stare at my paper, I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on. While everyone else around me seems to be getting it. I'm the only one not writing right now. Okay, good to know.
That's why I think another really important role of a teacher is to be a very good observer, be able to pick up on things fairly quickly, and try to diagnose what's going on and fix the situation. Whether it's your student doesn't know. Sometimes your students, I had a class a few days ago. It was their first class of the day, and they were just tired and weren't quite awake yet. And so I actually made all my students get up and walk around and talk to each other, and that woke them up. So,
oh, nice. That's a great way to wake them up and do a small talk kind of practice.
Definitely.
Oh, look at you, Chad.
I'm trying my best, man. What can I say?
Do you think? I mean, you haven't been a teacher for long, but have you seen your what you think your role is change even over a couple of years?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think when I was doing a lot of German teaching as a teaching assistant, it was a lot more grammar focused stuff and trying to really prepare my students for their tests, because the tests and quizzes were a huge part of their grade. And then I started volunteering in a refugee center where it was, I was trying to give students very useful survival English that will help them in their own personal lives and their professional lives.
You're not testing them. You're just trying to...
Exactly. So I think the reason why my opinion about the roles of teachers has changed is because my own individual role has changed in different classes, right? This may sound really corny or really cheesy, but sometimes as a teacher, you also got to be a cheerleader a little bit. You got to encourage your students. You got to support them. They're going to make some mistakes. They might, fall on their ass after they try that first backflip or that back handspring. But you got to be there to pick them up and still tell them, good job, you tried your best. And I think that's really important.
When I started at the company I work at now a couple of years ago, I left my other company because I hated it. And I felt like my job didn't matter. No one really cared about me being there, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so I was at my my new job for a couple months or whatever, weeks, whatever. And my boss was asking me for something, and I gave it to him. He's like, all right, good job, Jared. And I was like, whoa, why does that feel so good?
It makes a big difference.
It was almost, I almost was embarrassed at how good it felt. It was like my mom or dad telling me they're proud of me for the first time or something. And it's like, oh, yeah, like I'd spent the past year at a job just kind of floating through, just having no idea what anyone thought of me or if I was doing the right thing. And it was like, oh, wow, like even just the smallest what's the word? Affirmation can really make a difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and actually I was told here in the Czech Republic by some Czech teachers that their students don't get a whole lot of praise and encouragement from the teachers because I think just culturally, I think Americans for the most part, or at least let me rephrase, Midwesterners for the most part, are very positive, very encouraging, and I don't quite...
You betcha.
Right. I don't quite feel that necessarily here in the Czech Republic. I don't think it's that the people here are rude or anything like that. I think it's just that they really give you praise when it's something like really praiseworthy, whereas I think in the States and especially the Midwest, we'll praise you if you do a little thing and it's good, Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that also comes with people. We're probably stereotypically more polite than people in Czech Republic, especially in the Midwest.
Right.
So there's a lot of I think a lot of that
direct. Yeah.
A lot of that might even just come from, a lot of the affirmations that you're talking about that we give in the Midwest. I think, you're right. We give more, but I think some of them do feel less genuine when that happens.
Oh,
where it's like, you're just saying that just because you're just trying to be nice. It's like, how about you tell me how you really feel?
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Another important role, I think, for a language teacher is to be a model of that language. And I think this goes for native speakers or non-native speakers. For some students, you may be the only person other than their classmates that they interact with in that language. So you really need to do a good job of teaching them the right things, using the right words. There are certain words, that I try to avoid in my English teaching because they're not very common or frequent words.
So not only are you teaching English, but you also have to be very cognizant of what's coming out of your mouth, because it's like the way you might be talking to me now is not really how you can talk to your students. Maybe because it's like, I'll use this word, but that's not really something that I would recommend someone just learning the language to try out.
Right.
Do you also you're pretty good at this already, but do you have to limit things like likes and weaknesses like that, or ums? Because I feel like saying like a lot, that's a typical American sort of weakness. Does that stuff translate to the Czech people? So if you're saying like or a lot, will they start to do that? Pick it up?
I try not to use... I would say I use more frequently than I do like.
Yeah, but that's universal, so that's okay.
Right. There we go. Just dig it there. I just think I'm really trying my best to teach them, academic English, and also American English, because They learn British English. A lot of their teachers, if you listen to their grammar,
they're screwed.
Right? And so yeah. So, like for example,
A whole bunch of curtain twitches.
exactly. Like, did you know, Jared, that Brits will say so in English, in American English, we say "Do you have?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
In England, they say "Have you got?"
Do they really?
Yeah. Have you got a car? Do you have a car?
Have you got is bad English in America.
Yeah, but that's American English. British English, have you got a car, is completely appropriate.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's also sometimes being aware of
Those subtleties.
exactly the subtleties and nuances of language. Yesterday, I was explaining to students that, well, here, Jared, you're a native speaker of English. How would you feel if someone said the word maths?
That's kind of like when someone says, I went to university,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, you're not from here.
Yeah.
And yeah, maths is a very British, maybe Canadian as well,
Probably.
but very British thing.
yeah,
and,
so I
it
explained that to the
Makes
students.
very little sense in America, where it's like, well, there's one math. There's not a bunch of math.
Well, you know why they say maths, right? It actually makes more sense in the British way.
I'm sure it does.
argue.
I'm sure it does.
Because it's I think it's shortened for mathematics.
Okay.
Which is
yeah,
plural.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there was a legitimate reason.
Yeah, but I told that to my students, and most times when I teach here in the Czech Republic, I have a Czech teacher observing me because they're also here to observe me and try to learn from the different methods and things I use in my own teaching. And
So they're not. Is there anyone that like reports back to the larger company that places you?
yeah, there's a couple different reports and things. We do like weekly meetings, my mentor and I, and discuss things.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think we just have to do that for quality control, without a doubt.
Right. Make sure they're not talking about their sex life in class or whatever.
Right, God forbid. I've had other teachers tell me that students had asked them about other questions that were similar, and like questions about drugs and other things. So honestly, man,
See, drugs seems like an even harder one than sex to me.
I would agree. So that's why I'm glad that I got a
Yeah, you
sex
got off
question
easy
instead,
then.
yeah.
I mean, I can't blame them though. Like if I were the student, I don't know if I would do it, but it wouldn't shock me that many people in my class probably would.
Right.
I had something I was just about to say. Oh yeah, do you ever catch yourself slipping?
What do you mean?
Where it's like falling into those bad habits that you say you try to avoid? Where it's like, man, I feel like I've been lecturing these people, or like, man, I feel like this assignment is not going as the way I mean, maybe that happens, but like do you ever feel like you're lecturing people?
Sometimes it depends on the subject matter. Like here in the Czech Republic, I have to teach technical English, so like focused on like engineering, computing, different things like that, which I'm definitely not an expert in by any means. But then there's also I have to teach the topics for their exit exam called the maturita. And I've noticed that the maturita exam topics are much easier to teach because they're more general. Like I've taught about U.S. geography, U.S. education, and I can tell that I get more engagement and excitement out of my students whenever I teach something that's U.S. related, because in a way I'm kind of the perfect model for them because, their other teachers aren't from the United States.
Right.
So
do they see you as kind of like cool because you're American?
I think some of them, yeah. I think some of them
Yeah.
I still have to win their respect over.
Who's this fucking guy?
Right. But the trick is you can't try to be cool. Like I don't try. I just be me.
You just are.
Exactly. Exactly. I like the way you think.
It's just
Jim.
all natural.
But what I will
No,
do,
but when you try, people that's even worse because people can
Exactly.
tell when someone's trying.
Exactly. Like I had a couple of students like dab in class, and I was like, and I thought about it, and I was like, how cringy would it be if a teacher did that? Like that would just be so cringy. Like dabbing.
It would be. It'd be like,
You know what I mean?
ugh.
It's like
But I think you're young enough to get away with it though. Like if it was like 30s plus, I might be like, all right,
I
Mom,
still don't
relax.
think so. I still don't think so. I think I'm too old for it, to be honest.
And you're just maybe also because you're in the teacher role, even though you're not as old as they might think. you might just be seen as older just
Right.
because
Oh,
of
for sure.
your authority position.
For sure. The other thing too, though, you mentioned, if I'm like kind of slipping, going down the wrong path while I'm teaching, I have a strong rule of thumb when I teach, and I have to give a big thank you to one of the best professors I've ever had, Dr. Bill Van Patten. He explained in one of my language classes that if you talk, if you say like, I don't remember the number of sentences, but it was like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 sentences, and you don't include the students in some way, you're basically lecturing them or talking at them. So I try to have
That's all it takes?
I mean,
That's not that much.
right. And so I try to use examples with students, even if it's just saying their name or just quickly asking them, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or get the whole class involved and say, like today, class got a little stagnant, and so a student had mentioned something about soccer, and I said, okay, everyone in the class who plays soccer raise their hand. Everybody who plays hockey raise their hand.
The entire class had hands up.
Right? But it's just a good way to, I think, if you get the students involved, not only obviously in the lesson plan, but also just by talking to them regularly, and also having them talk to each other, it's a good way to break up just, kind of lecturing at them the whole hour.
Yeah. I always enjoy the classes where I'm more involved and where there's some sort of group work or something. Because it forces you to the student to do the work. Like if it's some sort of group work, then there's or some sort of conversational work. Say you get into a group of this, of 3 and pretend you're sitting at a restaurant or whatever. I don't know. It forces that to happen rather than you just talking at them and hoping that they're picking up what you're saying.
Right. And sometimes I'll also use examples. I try to use examples that will reach a broad spectrum of the students, right? Like maybe, make a joke about like something that most of the students are interested in or like. For example, we were talking about engineering the other day, and the students didn't know the English word for blueprint. And I knew a couple students in the class listened to rap music. So you know where I'm going with this. Yes, sir. I said, this is also the name of a Jay-Z album. And a student got it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So when you can use real world examples that connect to their own personal life and their interests, I think it really helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Do you think you do anything that innovates the role of a teacher that you wish you could pass on to other teachers, young or old?
Oh, wow, man. That is a great question. Holy crap.
Where you're like, man, I do this, but like I don't know if anyone else does, but they probably should because it seems to work whenever I do it.
You're gonna have to give me a moment to think on this one. That's a really loaded question. I mean, like I said, I would, and I don't think this is necessarily special to me specifically, but I think a lot of the students that went through the same graduate program as I did tend to really just try to have a very communicative class. I think some teachers spend too much time lecturing. Teachers also like to talk, so too much time talking. So if there's any tip I could give any teacher out there, young or old, find ways and activities to get your students talking regularly, not only during group work with each other, but with you. Get a dialogue, build a relationship with your students. I would say one of my strengths so far in these 4 years that I've been teaching have been being able to build a solid relationship with my students, because I think if you just come into class, you teach the material and you leave, the students aren't going to care as much. But if you come in, I like to spend a couple minutes every day, how are you? What's going on? What are your plans? Things like that. And some people might think it's a waste of time, but I think, we're all just people at the end of the day, teacher, student, regardless. And I think when you have a good relationship with someone, it really can help you in more ways than just how smoothly the lesson plan goes. I think if your students feel comfortable with you, they're more likely to share more information with you, whether it be private, personal, or whatever. to me, I feel like students that I've had in the past that have given me good reviews on my teaching reviews, a lot of them have said, I made the class personable, and I also tried to have a lot of like energy and passion for whatever I was teaching. Even some days, man, you have to fake it till you make it,
Of course, yeah.
Definitely.
I'm doing that right now on this podcast.
Right. You and me both. But I think the biggest thing for most teachers is giving your students a platform in which they can be more autonomous, where you don't have to hold their hand. You can be there as the facilitator. You can be there as an extra resource, but you should not be the one that does all the footwork.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there are a lot of good teachers out there who do that. I don't think that's unique to myself.
Okay. By the way, good news. My headlamps have arrived for pickup at the UPS store.
Nice.
So
Solid.
your boy's ready to go camping.
There you go. Nice. That's awesome.
So you mentioned that you feel like your role alters depending on the kind of class you're teaching, whether it's more conversational or the more grammar based. You're now teaching Czech students. Does your role alter based off of where these people are, where they're from, rather like teaching Americans versus Czechs?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because
do they operate differently in classrooms?
Yes. Like one thing I love, and I wish we did this in the United States, it kind of gives you a little bit of a power trip, but
hit the kids.
But yes, no, that would be Africa, and some countries in Africa still do hit their students, which boggles my mind. But anyways, no, when you walk in the classroom, the students stop talking and they all stand up.
Oh, really?
And literally, they stay standing
until you
say, "Please sit down."
That's some.
It's crazy.
That's some respectful shit.
Yeah,
that does feel like I can imagine that giving you a slight power trip.
Oh, you walk in and it goes
make
from
them stand
talking
for the
to
entire
quiet.
class.
Yeah, everyone stands up. It makes you feel important. You know what I mean? It makes.
I mean, American kids, in comparison to most other cultures, are disrespectful as hell, bro.
Oh, I would agree. I think
the idea of standing up for a teacher. What a kid would almost be like, I would never the kid would be insulted by that.
Mm-hmm. but I think
they do that a lot in Asian cultures too, where it's that stand up and shut up when the teacher walks in.
Right. Well, I feel like too with other cultures, I think in some cultures teachers are more respected. Obviously, also like the way that different cultures view learning. I've had a lot of Czechs tell me, which I find really interesting, is they tell me their English isn't very good because they didn't have a very good teacher. And I've had good German teachers and bad German teachers, and I feel like my German's pretty good. And I'm the type of person where I'm not going to blame my teacher for my own linguistic shortcomings,
Yeah.
But I think
it's a
here, the Czech Republic, they put a lot of emphasis on the teacher. You are here to teach me, to give me this knowledge. And I think for some students, they have maybe found it a little difficult, the amount of pair work and discussion work I do, because I'm not giving them, a lot of just like me just talking at them and like teaching them by just lecturing. I want them to have conversations, and then we'll reconvene as a class and discuss those conversations. And if I notice certain things come up, then I will teach them. If, like, for example, I had a lot of students who meant to say the word jersey, and they used the word dress, and so that was like a quick little teachable moment. But I think your role as a teacher, you have to be flexible and allow things like that to happen, instead of just, I feel like you can sometimes prepare for certain things that you might think would be wrong, right? Like certain grammar things or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think you just have to really try to diagnose things as they come.
So student or people in general tend to have more respect for teachers there. However, with that extra respect comes more expectations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would say, for example, I've also taught students from China. And students from China, They're very well obviously we're generalizing here, but the students that I've had from China were always very well behaved. But at the same time, they would sit there and take notes. And when I would try to get them to speak, it took them almost a week or 2 weeks to really get used to speaking regularly and not just me speaking at them all hour.
Mm-hmm. So they're more used to just your typical lecturing.
Right. And the Americans that I've taught for German classes, obviously not for ESL because that wouldn't make sense, but the Americans I've taught for German classes usually have no problem discussing. And I've been lucky. I've had a lot of students who really did try their best. But I also think the role of the teacher is to allow code switching to happen. And for our listeners out there that maybe aren't caught up to all of our episodes, code switching is going back and forth between two different languages. It's kind of the easy definition of it. And some teachers, I think, will say, oh, English only or German only or whatever. And here's the thing. That's not how we learn a foreign language. Like once you speak another language, you will always use that language one way or another to help you learn that second or third language. And I think that's just a normal, natural process, If my Czech was better, if there was a vocabulary word students didn't know, I could just give it to them in Czech and be done in a couple seconds. Whereas if I have to try to define it in English and give examples and do all this, that can take a lot of class time.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. No, that's a good point. No, that's a good point. I as far as just straight up questions go, that's all I have. But anything else you want to say about this? Anything that you think we missed?
Well, we've had a really good discussion about this, and I hope our listeners out there, especially people interested in going into the profession of teaching, can learn a thing or two from this. And also hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Gmail. We'd also love to hear what your opinions are on the different roles of teachers. But I do want to say a few more things before we end the segment, Jared. First of all, I mentioned that teachers are facilitators. I think that's one role. I think sometimes teachers are also the knowledge givers. There's sometimes no way to avoid that.
It's interesting that you almost fight that. Like you say, sometimes there's no way to avoid it. You're a teacher. I mean, that's in my mind, that's like the number one thing, is to pass on some sort of knowledge or information.
Well, I agree with that. I guess I think it becomes dangerous when you look at yourself as solely the knowledge giver.
Right.
Because I think
like you're the all-knowing one.
Exactly,
Everyone
because I think
me.
students can learn a lot from their peers. I think sometimes they may even learn more from their peers than their teacher, to be honest. I know I have when I've taken some language classes before. But I think a teacher needs to be a facilitator, a knowledge giver, also a needs analyst. So they need to be able
Analyst.
to. Thank you. Needs analyst.
Chad's the English teacher over here.
Right. Go figure. Exactly. They need to be a needs and analyst. Sorry, almost said it again. And also be very quick on their feet. And the best language teachers I've seen, like I've mentioned before during this segment, tend to be very flexible. I think that's really important. It's important to have your goals and objectives in mind, but sometimes it's okay if your class goes in a different way than you initially intended. Sadly, sometimes too, teachers are going to be counselors. I've definitely had students share very personal things with me, and I've had to console them. It is really hard. I would also say,
but I mean, that's a good sign. I don't know. I think you're about to say what I was just about to say, but that also probably is a good sign that your students trust you and you're getting through to them.
Absolutely.
And that they're actually like, they want to console you for something, but they would only do that if they trusted you.
Right.
And to some extent, it probably shows that you're a good teacher.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that.
Also very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm here to teach you German or English. Like I don't want you to like, I don't know. It's like, it seems very risky giving advice to kids like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to be very careful.
Like, what do I know?
You have to be very careful. You're right. And sometimes, I was In the past, I was only, a few years older than my students, so it's not like I had that much more
I
life
should be asking you that question.
Exactly. I think, though, too, like one of the most heartwarming things you can experience as a teacher is when your students come to you and they either have good news or they want your advice and they actually take your advice and your advice helps them in some way. I had a student.
I mean, that feels good as a person in general, not just a student.
Oh, for sure. I had a student come into my office one day and ask me if she should or should not study abroad. And I kid you not, we made a pros and cons list. And I told her, look, I know it's a big financial burden. I know you're going to miss your friends and your family, but you're going to grow so much from that experience. And she took my advice and seems like she had the time of her life. And I spoke.
Where'd she go?
Freiburg, Germany.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to her afterwards, and her German had really improved a lot. But I also want to, obviously our podcast is a lot of just our own thoughts and opinions, but I also do want to throw out some actual language teaching citations here. So there's a really good author. His last name is, I believe it's Harner.
Who dat?
Thank you.
Harner.
Harner. And this book is called The Practice of English Language Teaching. And basically Harner says, I think it's Harner. It's either, it should be. He says that.
What was that? Were you just listening to his name or something?
No, I was trying to read the text because I have the text in front of me. But he notes, I believe it's a he. I think his name's James. He notes that a teacher is a controller, an assessor, an organizer, a prompter, also very important, a participant, a resource, a tutor, and an observer. So
controller. That one's interesting.
Well, it's like a facilitator. I think that's another word for facilitator,
same.
I would say.
Yeah, control just has a worse sound to it.
I prefer facilitator. Sounds a little more formal. But yeah, so I mean, for all of our language teachers out there or students trying to understand where their teachers are coming from, I think those are some very important roles of teachers, to be controllers, assessors, organizers, prompters, participants, resources, tutors, and observers.
I have another question.
Okay, go for it.
I hate to
You're good.
destroy your beautiful ending to our segment.
You're good.
But I have another question. Do you ever concern yourself with the longevity of teaching and sometimes seeing teachers get like soured by the process? Because, I feel like I've seen a lot of older teachers that still seem to love what they do and are very into it. But I've also seen people kind of almost lose faith in humans in society sometimes, where they just seem jaded.
I'm going to be honest with you and with all of our listeners out there. That's one of my biggest fears as a teacher, is to lose that love and that passion for it to the point where it's just your job. Obviously, it's your job, but I think sometimes you sadly have to have kind of a rosy, view on it. It's more than just your job. It's your way of life. It's the way that you.
Would you call it a calling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's funny because a lot of people ask me, did you really want to be a teacher? And my answer is always yes. I mean, obviously I've only been doing it for 4 years. So it's not like, I'm the seasoned veteran. I would say I try to really read up on literature and try to inform myself and be the best teacher I can be. But I also think at the same time, like you said, you can sadly sometimes lose faith in your fellow humans. I think the reason why some teachers might burn out is because they take a lot of it too personally. You gotta also have a thick skin, have very thick skin as a teacher. I mean, you know me fairly well, Jared. I'm kind of a sensitive guy, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, which is not also perfect if you want to be a teacher.
Chat's crying in front of students.
Right. But, I mean, I have developed a thicker skin, at least as a teacher, because when I step in that classroom, it's a different environment. Exactly. It's not about me. It's a good point.
I used to date a girl that was a teacher, and she was a middle school teacher. It was different. But she, like her mood and emotions seemed to be heavily based on how how her day at work went and how her students were doing. She also, she worked in Philadelphia, and it was kind of a lower income school.
Okay.
And so, there's a lot of more involvement with realizing how the kids live, at how their home life is and all that stuff. And like it heavily seemed like her mood was based off of that. And I kind of like felt sorry for her. Like, it's like, man, like, I work in an office, and I don't really have that sort of connection to what I'm doing where it's like these people need me like that. And it's like I could never imagine going home every day or going to work every day and just like having my mood be solely based on how my students are doing, when you can't control how your students are doing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a lot of your students are unfortunately in difficult situations. And so it's hard.
Oh, I agree.
And whenever I would see that, I would think, like, you can't live like this for the next 30 years or whatever it is.
Not at all.
It's like that's not sustainable.
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
Have you experienced? Do you understand that feeling though? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. And yeah, it's like I said, you just sadly have to develop a thick skin and not take things personally. But see, that's also what's really difficult is if you develop a really good relationship with your students and they're doing bad, it will make you feel bad. There's really no way around it. Not even if you have thick skin, it's still.
And the thing with the
go ahead.
The thing with the thick skin though is that there's that line where it's like you need to realize that one, it's not about you, and that you got a job to do, but also don't let that thick skin turn into that burnout that we were talking about before, where it's like your skin is so thick that you're not even really connected to what's going on.
And sadly, some teachers go down that road for sure. There's also one other role. I cannot believe I forgot it, Jared. I think as a teacher, you also have to be an actor.
Yes. Yes. That's a good one. That is a good one. I mean, you definitely have to I like just walk in and put aside. Is this what you're saying, by the way? Put aside whatever's going on in your life and
well that
and not let
that, and also not be afraid to laugh at yourself or make a fool of yourself.
Okay. Yes.
You know, I try to make jokes about myself all the time. I think humor is also a great way to spruce up your classes, especially language classes, because if your students can get your jokes, I think then like they're really starting to understand things. Like I made
for sure.
Like I made a joke about. So I had a student ask me if I was learning Czech, right? And there's this type of like schnapps or liqueur here called slivovice, a little extra untranslatable for you. It's usually made out of plum. And a lot of people, not only in Moravia, which is the southeastern part of the Czech Republic, make homemade slivovice. They also do, where I live, more in the Bohemian region. And so I met this guy guy named Honza. It seems like every third guy I meet here is named Honza, which is a nickname for Jan, actually. But because there's so many Jans, people go by like Jan, Janek, I've also heard, and Honza. And anyways, this Honza guy had his own homemade slivovice, right? But he had it in like a plastic water bottle. And I'm learning some Czech, and the water bottle, the name of the brand of water is Dobrá voda, which means good water.
Okay.
And then on the top part of it, it said slivovice. And so he handed it to me with the writing of slivovice on the back side of it, and hands it to me and says very slowly, Dobrá voda. So I would understand. Good water, right? And so I kind of told my students this story, and they were cracking up. And so, I think when you can make your students laugh, and sometimes you got to be a little theatrical, you got to make a fool of yourself. I think if you check your ego at the door, you're going to have a much better language classroom.
Yes. I've definitely, I mean, this is the stuff you're saying makes perfect sense to me. It's just stuff not being a teacher, I've never really thought about, but there is definitely something to disarming yourself and not just carrying yourself as some sort of, because I think a lot of it is in how you carry yourself. Because I've seen, there are teachers where it's like, this person is not the one to be messed with, versus this person like, for example, our German teacher, Perry Myers, he enjoyed like jokes. He even kind of enjoyed people making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like every now and again, like me or Guardo or something would make jokes at his expense, and he'd always find it hilarious.
Yeah. He's such a great guy too. One of my favorite professors, hands down.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think he embraced a lot of these roles we've mentioned this segment. You know, I mean, I never really felt like I couldn't ever ask questions or talk to him, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
he seemed like he was open to anything.
Right.
Like he's like just
exactly.
And he was also very good at the disarming thing. Like he had that story about when he was in Russia and he didn't know what was going on, and like someone asked for his pants or something like that,
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think when you bring your personal life into the classroom a little bit with funny anecdotes or whatever, students really, they really take to that. And it's a really great opportunity for a lot of things.
And I think especially in your class where you're a conversational class. So if you can do that disarming and say, and like make it clear to the kids that you can say essentially whatever you want in here, that'll make the whole conversation go way smoother, where it's like, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to talk. So let's talk like people.
Right. Exactly. And you have
I'm not your boss.
You have to provide, I think, more authentic opportunities for language. And, that's when I have more difficulty when I teach the more technical subjects, because I'm by no means a scientist or a technician or an engineer or any of these things. And also, unfortunately, some of my students aren't going to be either, but we still have to cover this material because it's a part of the curriculum.
Are you teaching yourself about that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of reading on it, doing a lot of just looking for other resources.
That sounds boring.
It's not ideal, but it's the life of a teacher. The best
Right.
resource that I've found so far have been TED Talks.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
authentic.
You like TED Talks, don't you?
I love TED Talks. Absolutely.
TED Talks are kind of boring to me.
Well, you got to find ones.
Some of them are
You got to
interesting,
find
but-
ones that are more up your alley. Like I watch a lot about
Yeah.
language and about music, and
Okay.
I really enjoy them. You should check out the one with Bobby McFerrin, and so should our listeners out there. It's really interesting. He talks a lot about music and how it's kind of this very natural human thing. It's pretty cool. But speaking of music, I think we should discuss our song of the pod.
Smooth.
Thank you, good sir. The song of the pod this week is by a German group called Wise Guys. And I picked the song this week for a very specific reason. The title of the song is Meine Deutschlehrerin. And Jared, could you please tell our listeners out there what that means in English?
Well, it means my German teacher, specifically female German teacher. Lehrerin with the IN at the end would mean female.
Correct.
So it's not completely about Chad. But
No.
But yeah,
I didn't
it
do
means
this
my
about
German
me,
teacher.
but about teachers in general. And so this is kind of a funny song. But first, before I talk about it and I talk about the lyrics, I want to know, Jared, what are your initial impressions about it?
I liked it. It definitely sounded. I only listened to it maybe once or twice, 2 or 3 times. So like I didn't get a good understanding of what they're talking about. It sounded like they were talking about. He was talking about how has a crush on his German teacher.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I did kind of get it then. But it's an acapella. There's a couple. I don't know how many of them are, but it's an acapella.
5 of them, I
And-
believe.
The thing about acapella is I love hearing it, but it's never something I'd put on my iPod.
Okay.
Like you'd never find me just walking around jamming out to some acapella. But it fit the vibe of the song pretty well. Acapella seems to suit this. I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense. Acapella seems to suit funny songs like this very well for some reason. I don't know why, but that's the sense I got when I got this. And it's just a fun song about some dude that had a teacher so good that he developed a crush, if I'm not mistaken. That's just from a listener too, and I'm no German expert.
What's ironic about most of our songs of the pod, though, is that if they are a cappella, they're most likely picked by me, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick an a cappella song.
I really like a cappella music. I don't know.
Do you listen to it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I just like something. I need that beat to get me going. I need some sort of beat
Okay.
other than some white dude beatboxing.
Fair enough.
No offense to
Fair
white
enough.
dudes that beatbox.
Right.
Do you want to go into some of these lyrics? Is there anything that
Yeah.
stuck out to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So as you mentioned, the whole song is about this guy's in love with his German teacher. She was a wonderful woman with shoulder-length blonde hair. She was the woman who was the only one for me. She was for me from the beginning. She taught me how to write. She taught me how to read. I
feel like this is like I feel like we're reading Chad's fantasies right now. Like as the German teacher, this is what you hope people write about you.
I actually had a student come on to me when I was a German TA.
Really?
That was really awkward. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's bound to happen at some point.
Right. It's just a
You're
funny
a good-looking
song.
dude.
Thank you, man.
What are you doing this weekend?
Right. I need some extra help. Can I come to your office hours?
I think that that's a podcast conflict of interest.
Right. Oh, for sure. For sure.
We don't need that kind of drama on this show.
Right. Yeah. Most definitely not. That's for sure. That is for sure. I just love this song because it's just really funny. Like
it is funny, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of kids develop some crush on their teacher, and they think she's like the smartest and the best, but this is funny because like they talk about like I love this little verse right here. Sie war so gebildet, sie war so unglaublich schlau. So she was so educated, she was unbelievably smart or clever because she really knew everything from like intonation and sentence structure. And Satzbau rhymes with schlau in German, so it sounds really good.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny, yeah, like a love letter.
But it's so funny too because
German teacher.
He's talking about how much he loves her, but he barely even mentions what she looks like. He's just like, I love how you explain sentence structure to me, and I love how
exactly. Which that's how you got a good teacher right there, regardless if they have a crush on you or not.
Yeah, no, but that is that coming on to teacher thing. I mean that's why it's a big no. It's because you're this person of authority, and I think it's easy for someone to be attracted to authority, and it's easy for someone to take advantage of that. Where it's like, I know you only you don't know anything about me. All you see me as some sort of authoritative figure, and seeing someone boss someone around and be authoritative can be hot for some people. And it's like, yeah, and that's why we can't do this because this is breaking some sort of a trust. It's like having sex with your doctor or something. I don't know.
I also feel like though too with the teacher, especially if you make an impact on somebody, that can really be something quite profound. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
if you know that like that person really helped you with something, regardless if it's a teacher or a friend or a coworker or a family member, I feel like that definitely will grow your bond with someone, and could definitely lead to a crush on your teacher.
Yeah, I'm good at this, or I'm into this because of you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So to all of our listeners out there, check out our Twitter, Untranslatable1. We will have that posted when this episode drops. Meine Deutschlehrerin by the Wise Guys. It's a great song, especially if you like a cappella. If you don't, listen to some of our older songs of the pod.
Listen to some of the Jared selected songs.
Exactly. So. I feel like it's pretty clear which ones are yours and which ones are mine usually. But that's okay.
It was so funny, too, because we were picking the song beforehand, and we sent each other a song at the exact same moment. And the two songs we sent each other were a perfect representation of a Jared pick versus a Chad pick.
Without a doubt.
And so true. When the Jared pick comes, you'll notice.
I feel like you tend to be a bit more free and experimental with your music. I'm the kind of guy, once I know I like something, I stick to it.
Yeah. No, I like finding new stuff. Dude, I told you I downloaded that Hiatus Coyote album. I've been listening to that shit on repeat for days. That's I love
awesome.
that album. I'm going to get more of it. It is so good.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I like finding new weird stuff. And like the most fun part of music to me is finding stuff that never even crossed my mind, and like noticing within the song, like, oh, I like this. I would have never even guessed that I like this.
I think it's
like,
interesting.
For example, Ife is a great example of that. That was also a great example.
Oh, definitely.
Where it's like, I never even knew something like this existed, and I love it.
I also sometimes, I have to be in the mood for it, but sometimes I really like when you have to listen to something a couple of times.
Yes.
And then you like it. Kind of like
That's why I
it's an
thought about
acquired musical
the
taste.
Coyote Skater. Because that's why I thought about the Coyote album. I bought it and I was like, I don't think I really need to buy it. Like it's fine, but it's not that great. And then a couple days later, I haven't stopped listening to it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but anyways, check out our Song of the Pod on our Twitter page. Let us know what you think about it at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com, or you can hop into our DMs on Twitter or on Instagram.
Or send us Song of the Pod recommendations. We'll take 'em.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to feature some music that you all listen to. You can also check us out on Facebook as well, and message us or contact us with any songs of the pod or anything else you'd like to talk with us. We'd love to hear from you. And speaking of talking, I want to do a little talking in Czech for you, Jared. Not very much, just 2 words.
Okay.
But these are my Czech words of the pod, and the word is bude večer. Do you know what večer means?
No. Should I? Is it a cognate?
No.
Oh, okay.
Večer means evening.
Okay.
So if you say
Hezký večer?
that would be like have a nice evening. We usually say dobrý večer,
Okay.
like
That's
good
evening.
evening. Yes.
Okay.
But bude večer it means like night is coming.
when would you use that?
Well, it's
Literally night is coming? Like it's 6 o'clock and
Like-
it's getting dark? Night is coming?
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's 2 reasons why I picked this one. One, because night is coming here in the Czech Republic as I record this, and 2, this is one of the Czech folk songs we've been singing in my choir, and it has really nice melody.
Are there any instruments accompanying, like a piano or something?
Nope. I mean, we use a piano in choir rehearsal to make sure we're hitting the right notes,
right,
but
right.
usually no accompaniment.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes,
Is there like do people use that as like some sort of like literally it just means night's coming? So you wouldn't use it as maybe some sort of greeting or like a hey, dobrý večer.
Well, you use dobrý večer.
Dobrý večer. Oh, that's not what you just said, is it?
Bude večer is
Bude
night is
večer.
coming.
Okay. I just don't understand where that would really come into conversation. Because if someone were to say that to me, it's like, yeah, no, I have a window. I can see that.
Right. Yeah, I also don't know, but like the song and like the way that those 2 words sound. So that's where
Yeah, I do too.
Where I was going with that.
And those are 2 words that'll come in handy separately too. So.
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, hey, Chad.
Yes.
Chad.
Hezký kluk.
Thank you, good sir. I appreciate it.
Good boy.
Appreciate it. I want to leave all of our listeners with a quote to send us off, and this quote is by a thank you.
Say yeah, I just got excited.
By a very important gentleman named Aristotle, or as the Germans say, Aristotle. And his quote is, "Those who know, do. Those who understand, teach."
See, that's not the one I've heard.
Really?
Those who can do, those who can't teach. That's the one I've heard.
From
That's not-
Aristotle?
No.
I was going to say, I was like, whoa.
More just from people insulting teachers.
Right. Yeah.
You've heard that one before, haven't
Oh,
you?
of course I have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a line in the School of Rock. And then he says, those who can't teach gym class.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, very late shout out, but shout out to Jack Black for getting his Hollywood star.
Did you see his pictures?
Oh, yeah, dude.
They're hilarious.
He seems like such an awesome guy.
Yeah,
He
it doesn't
really
take it
does.
too seriously. He was like laying all over his star. With people were like, he's like,
did
hey,
you
get a
watch
picture of me
his
doing
speech?
this pose. No, I didn't. I was just
His speech
laughing
was
at his
hilarious.
poses.
He was like, he said something like, well, I made it. He's like, I'm retiring. I'm done. I made it. Like, it was just really, really funny.
Is he retiring? He's not retiring.
No, of course not. He was joking. Like you
Yeah,
said,
I feel like someone that prolific can't just quit like that.
Right. Probably not. But yeah,
What has he done recently? TV shows,
I'm not
maybe?
sure.
Because
I
I
mean,
haven't seen him around.
I mean,
in
I
a
know
while.
he's still been like doing music or was touring with Tenacious D.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I'm sure he's working. I just haven't seen him around in a while.
Right. Who knows? Maybe he's doing more stuff behind the scenes. You never know.
Yeah, maybe producing shit. Who knows?
Right. Exactly. So with that, our amazing listeners, just remember, Those who know, do. And those who understand, teach. We thank
those
you.
who can't, teach Jim.
Exactly. The wise words of Jack Black or Mr. Schneebly from School of Rock. We thank you for listening and for your support. Please check us out on Facebook at Untranslatable Podcast. We'd love to have you follow us or message us on Twitter at Untranslatable1. Also, you're welcome to reach us on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. And if you have any Song of the Pod recommendations or any untranslatables, please send them to us at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. We thank you, and we will see you next time.